Hello. Today I want to talk about simplifying square roots. More specifically, I want to talk about the product property of square roots. So let's say I have the square root of 5 times the square root of 2. The product property says I just multiply the 5 and the 2 and I get the square root of 10 as my answer. Let's do another one. So I have the square root of 7 times the square root of 5, right? So the product property says I multiply the 7 and the 5 all under the square root, and I get the square root of 35. Let's do another problem. So let's say I have the square root of 3 times the square root of 12. When I do the product property, I'm going to do what? You guessed it, multiply the 3 and the 12. And so my answer would be the square root of 36. But I'm not done yet. The square root of 36, that should be very familiar, right? 36 is a perfect square, right? So the answer would just be 6. Awesome. So now I have negative square root 10 times the square root of 10. All right, so pause, take a minute, see if you can figure this one out. So if you guessed it, I'm going to use the product property to multiply the 10 and the 10. We still have that negative hanging out there, so we're going to include that. So this would simplify to negative square root of 100. And 100 should be very familiar to you. 100 is what? That's right, it's a perfect square. So the square root of 100 is simply 10. And we still have that minus hanging out in front. So the answer would be negative 10. Let's do another one. So in this problem, I have the square root of 2 times the square root of 200. Using the product property, I do 2 times 200. And so this would simplify to the square root of 400. The square root of 400 should look familiar to you. That's a perfect square, right? Yes, the square root of 400 is 20. So 20 would be the answer. Alrighty. In this problem, I have 3 times the square root of 15. So pause, take a minute, see if you can figure it out. Alrighty, and if you guessed it, I'm going to do the product property, which means I multiply the 3 and the 15 all under the square root. My answer ends up being the square root of 45. Question, am I done here? Is 45 a perfect square? No, it's not, right? But it could still be simplified further. Right, let's say I have 45 and two numbers that break down to give me 45 are 3 and 15. Two numbers that give me 15 are 3 and 5. So I can rewrite 45 as 3 times 3 times 5. And 3 times 3 is just 9, so it'll be 9 times 5, right? And 9 is a perfect square, so my answer ends up being 3 root 5.